Welcome to Larry's Library. And this week, instead of a comic or book review, we're doing a collection tour, and I'm going to show you my ROM collection. Yeah, you may have seen on Near Mint Condition, Omar announced not too long ago that we would finally be getting ROM collected in omnibus form. Well, at least we're getting Volume 1. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it over here in the corner so you can check that out. But I'm excited because I love this material. I have every single issue of this series, but like I said, I will gladly double dip for this one to get this stuff in oversized format, in a proper hardcover. After all this time, all the naysayers, people saying it couldn't happen because of licensing, it happened. You know, when you got Disney money behind your company, okay, there's not much that isn't possible if they want to do it. And I guess they wanted to do it because we're going to get it. I think it's supposed to come out in January. And it, like I said, it's Volume 1. I think he said it collects the first 29 issues. If I'm wrong on that, I will update it with a graphic on the screen here. Didn't check that ahead of time. It's not in my notes. But at any rate, I think it's going to collect the first 29. And I think the Power Man and Iron Fist crossover issue, this one right here, show a scan there. This is issue 73 of Power Man Iron Fist, which could not be collected before, I don't think, because of the ROM appearance. So, you know how that works. All this licensing really messes with our hobby when your hobby is hardcover collected editions of well, not just classic material, but sometimes not so classic, and you still can't have it. But yeah, I'm really excited about this, and there's been a number of people ask me to do a video about it, to give an overview, or to tell people about ROM, because there's many people that either didn't read ROM first time around, that are my age or older, or near my age, or maybe they're younger and they never even heard of ROM until now, and they're on the fence about whether they're going to pre-order that Omni or not. So you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to show all the covers if I can squeeze them in. There's a lot, and I don't want this video to be an hour long, and I know you don't either. No, nobody has that kind of attention span anymore, that's for sure. And I'm not one to bore you. At least I'm trying not to bore you. So, a little bit about this series. This was Marvel, of course. It ran for 75 issues. Nice long run on this one. It had 4 annuals, so 79 issues of the regular series if you count the annuals. And it started in 1979, and it ran to 1986. Now, I did buy issue 1 off the stands. Show a scan of that here. And I collected, I don't know how many, but I collected this and read this series, buying it off the rack as it came out for the first several years, up until the time I unfortunately decided I was, too old and for comics, and stopped collecting and reading for a number of years. One of the many regrets I have that has been rectified, though. I do talk about that in the comic book regrets video. If you haven't seen that one, I will link that up in the corner as well. So check that out if you want to see some woe is me. It's in that one. But this one's not about woe. This one is about happiness, because I'm talking about ROM, one of my favorite characters of all time, one of my favorite runs of all time. So Bill Mantlo, the great Bill Mantlo, kind of an underrated writer, you might say. He wrote all the issues of the main series, all of it, the whole run, stayed with it. He created the character. I shouldn't say he created it, because the character existed as a toy. I think it was a Hasbro toy before it came to comic books. And Bill Mantlo, he would play with this kid and his toys, and that's how he got the idea. He did the same thing with Micronauts, and then he did it with ROM. Now, I should say that probably 100% of all of the story ideas and the world of ROM is all Bill Mantlo, because the toy gave you very little information other than the look, which the comic book greatly improved upon that. If I can dig up a picture of the original toy, I will show it here. And as you can see, it's a little goofy looking in some ways. I think, in my opinion. But the comic book improved on that in a big way. Now, if you look at the depiction of ROM in issue 1, the cover, you can see that it's a lot different than later, and it's even different than he looks in within the comic book itself. And what I think happened there is he drew the character for the cover. He drew that cover before he actually started drawing the comic book, and they hadn't worked out the character design entirely there, and it got a lot better, as you will see. And I'm going to show some scans from the inside of issue 1 here too, so you can see how powerful the Sal Buscema art is. Sal Buscema is John Buscema's brother, in case you didn't know that. And he's a great one too, one of the greats of all time. And he drew, speaking of that, didn't finish the creators, Sal Buscema, Big John's brother, drew almost the entire series. The final 16 issues of the 75-issue run were drawn by legendary Steve Ditko. But Sal drew, our pal Sal, as they used to say in Bullpen Bulletin, he drew all of it up to that point with various inkers. He did most of the covers, but we also have a lot of notable, awesome artists step in for a lot of these covers. Frank Miller did several. The great Michael Golden did a bunch of them, and those are just stellar. I would have loved to see Michael Golden take a crack at interiors for ROM, but that never happened. But, you know, I mean, I can dream of a graphic novel with Michael Golden drawing ROM. That would be something. But at any rate, I digress. I get excited talking about these characters and, you know, try to stay on topic. So, a little bit about Bill Mantlo, for those that don't know. He was Marvel's sort of fill-in guy for the longest time, for years and years. He was Marvel's pitch hitter, you might say. He could write anything, and he could do it very quickly, and Marvel would just throw him at anything and everything whenever the main writer couldn't keep up, or they didn't know who the main writer was going to be yet. They might throw Bill Mantlo on it. I mean, he was always ready to just go in there and fill in, and he did, and he was great at it. But he also created a lot of mainstays, a few very notable ones. He created Cloak and Dagger. He created Rocket Raccoon. He had a really great sort of another one that's kind of underrated and not talked about a lot, but he had a really good run on Incredible Hulk. That, in fact, the first Incredible Hulks I ever read, regular issues, you know, just right off this rack or in the 20-cent boxes we used to have in the local comic shop. We'd dig through that and get stuff that wasn't quite collector grade, but you could read them, and they were awesome. And anyway, my first exposure, my first real Hulk read was the Bill Mantlo, was during his run. And it was the same team there. A lot of the Hulk issues he did was drawn by Sal Buscema. Never forgot that. Really great stuff. Now, aside from his comic book work, Bill Mantlo's a pretty interesting guy. Pretty interesting character on his own. He, while still writing comics, he passed the bar exam in 1987, and he became a legal aid public defender in the Bronx. And, you know, from everything we can know about him, he seems like he was just an all-around great guy. But Bill Mantlo was hit by a car in 1992 while rollerblading. He was in a coma for a very long time. He came out of the coma, but he did suffer brain damage, and sadly, he could no longer write. He couldn't write, and he couldn't practice law ever again. So that was pretty sad. I think his brother took care of him for a long time, and eventually he was in a healthcare facility that had to take care of his daily needs, and I think that's where he still is today. Now, after the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, the first film, Marvel did actually step in. Okay, they did something good, and they gave him a compensation package that reportedly will provide for his health care and daily needs for the rest of his life. So, good on Marvel for that, at least. But this video is about ROM. Now, what is ROM? ROM is a space knight. Okay, what's a space knight? Space Knight is a group of people from the planet Galador that willingly decide to sacrifice a lot of their own humanity to become a cyborg knight, a cyborg space knight. They're clad in silver, very reminiscent of the Silver Surfer. Well, not all of them are silver, but ROM is. The Space Knights are all different. They're not carbon copies of each other. They all look very different, and you get to see different ones throughout the series. Not at first, but eventually you start seeing some other Space Knights besides ROM. But he's the focus of the series, and he has the cool Well, you're seeing it in the scans. I don't know how to describe it. He's all silver. He can fly. He has, all this cybernetic stuff he can do, enhancements, super strength, whole 9 yards. He can fly through space. He can survive in space. He's arguably more machine than man after the grafts and all the transformation process that they did. Now, why did they do this? They did this because of this alien race called, this other race of creatures called the Dire Wraiths. And the Dire Wraiths are these awful, terrible sorcerers. But they're not just sorcerers. They also use high technology. They use both. And they're shapeshifters like the Skrulls. So they are some awesome villains. And they pretty much, they're at war with humanity and with Galador. And Galador doesn't know what to do. They just can't. There's nothing. Their technology can't best the Dire Wraiths' magic. So they come up with this idea to make space knights. And these space knights would scour the galaxy, hunting down the Dire Wraiths and trying to save other worlds from being taken over like theirs were. And ROM volunteers for that. And he becomes the greatest of the space knights. And eventually he follows the Dire Wraiths to, guess where? To Earth. And yeah. And so you find out that the Dire Wraiths have infiltrated the governments and the various cities and positions of power and all over the place on Earth in disguise as humans. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I'm not going to give too much away, partly because, memory fails on some of this. I haven't read a lot of this material in a long time, but I dearly loved it. Just loved it. Now, like I said, when I was buying these as they came out, I did not finish the series because I quit reading comics, got out of them before it ended. But I did come back and got them all and reacquired all the ones I'd sold with my original collection. More on that in the regrets video. But anyway, so I have all 75 now and the 4 annuals and the Power Man Iron Fist issue. Oh, almost forgot. There was also 2 issues of Avengers that crossed over the Dire Wraiths storyline. And I'll show those covers here. So I know this is probably reflecting badly off the Mylar, but it was issues 244 and 245 of Avengers are dealing with the Wraith problem a little bit. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, a lot of these covers are going to go by fast. I'm going to try to show all of them. There's a lot, like I said, 79 altogether, counting the 4 annuals. And these 3 crossover books adds even, he makes it even higher cover count, but I'm going to try to show them all and chat a little bit about ROM Space Knight. So one of the things that was cool about ROM was he didn't have to carry his weapons with him. He could summon them from another dimension. It's like a little pocket dimension, if I remember right. I could be wrong on that. Been a long time. But he could just summon what he needed, and it would appear, and he'd pull it out of that little, almost like a bag of holding from D&D. If anybody's played Dungeons & Dragons, you know what I'm talking about. But at any rate, yeah, it was wonderful. He had a blaster type weapon that he could set it to banish the Wraiths to another place, to another dimension where they couldn't do any damage. And I cannot remember what that dimension is called. Man, I should have looked that up. But I will put it right here. I will insert a graphic to let you know what that is. But he would banish these creatures when he would discover them. And he had another way of, he had a scanner that he could blast them with and reveal their true identity. And he could use this ray to determine if they were humans or if they were masquerading wraiths. Now, here's another little plot twist, little plot device that was pretty cool, is when he would turn this ray on humans to check to see if they were actually wraiths. From a distance, it looked like he was using a death ray. It looked like he was a robot using a death ray. So, so there was a lot of misunderstandings with the locals and some of the local superheroes too, because they thought, man, this guy's, well, and even more so if he would reveal one as being a wraith, it would look like they were being destroyed because they would turn into the blobby, wispy, demonic-looking, dire wraith as they were scanned. They would come away from their disguise, would drop. So if they were disguised as a human being and these people in town got to know that guy, and then ROM comes in there and zaps them and they turn into this, they think ROM did it, you know, and ROM's just revealing what they actually are, their true, you know, their true deal. It's a lot of fun, it really is. It's some great stuff, and it's definitely not to be missed. It's, you know, and for you people that, you know, that don't read single issues and you have no desire to collect a bunch of these back issues, because getting them all was not easy, let me tell you. You know, some of the earlier ones were pretty pricey too. But yeah, so for the people that don't want to buy back issues and don't even read singles, and I understand, I get it. These are a lot nicer than singles, all these hardcovers. You're going to get a chance now with Volume 1. And hopefully we'll have 2 more volumes, because from my mapping, and I'll put my mapping up here so you can take a look at how I mapped it, and we'll see if it materializes and you know, if I was close at all. But yeah, there's a lot of great supporting cast here too, and ROM he has run-ins with various superheroes. He meets the X-Men, he meets the Avengers, you know, it's just on. And like I said, that's 79 to 86, that's what, 7 years worth of this storyline. And another great thing about it is it does come to a nice conclusion too. This series actually has an ending. You know, a lot of canceled series never really end, you know, or if you're lucky, their plot threads are sort of tied up, you know, in another book somewhere. You know, that's happened often. Or they're not finished at all. And that really sucks when that happens, you know. So, yeah, at least we got a pretty good ending, in my opinion. And now with Marvel reacquiring this license, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing them taking a crack at more ROM stories. If they put the right people on it, I'd be pretty happy to read more, you know. I'm not sure how they could do it, though, with the way it ended, if I remember right. Which I'm not going to reveal that ending here. This is supposed to be a collection tour, not a spoiler thing. So, I mean, it could be argued that you're going to get a little bit of spoilers with some of the covers here. But not really. I mean, this is a lot of covers. So, you know, after you get through watching all of these covers slide by here, and even if there is some spoilers in some of the last issues there, you know, looking at those covers, you know, you're not going to remember by the time you actually start reading that Omni, and, you know, because it's 79 to 86, issue 1 through 75, that's a long haul. So I'm confident that I can show all the covers here without much, you know, damage to your reading if you do decide to get these Omnis. I hope you like this, and I hope you buy the ROM Omnibus, because I sure am going to. And yeah, that is my ROM collection tour for now. Hopefully I will add to this with the ROM Omnibus, and hopefully more after that. So I hope you like this tour, and I will see you in the next one. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to notify yourself. If you want to support me, there'll be a Patreon link, clickable link coming up shortly at the end of this video. If you want to click that, throw a couple bucks my way, that'd be great. But if not, hey, that's cool. Subscribe though, because that really helps. And I'll see you next time.